Energy is one of the forces shaping our world. It powers our homes, our businesses, and ultimately our future. And beyond the systems, the infrastructure, there are people thinking, there are people building, and there are people making decisions that affect how the energy works for us. Welcome to What's Your Impact, where we're powering people, energy, and impact. And today I have someone that is at the intersection of three of them, Fola. And Fola has gone from working on clean energy solutions across Africa to contributing to conversations that drive the energy transition and energy access and sustainability in Africa. And he brings forth the perspectives, he brings depth, and he knows what it really takes for energy systems to work. Thank you for joining us today. I'm really excited about our conversation today, Fola.
Thank you for having me.
Fola, how would you describe yourself to someone that doesn't know you, obviously, apart from your work in energy?
Yeah, I'm a fun guy who's passionate about energy.
I said apart from energy.
That is true.
Yeah.
But yeah, passionate about impact, passionate about learning. I have a wide range of interests. I love learning. I'm constantly, engaging in history, listening to podcasts. My current interests like psychology, financial markets. I love to be active. So I like running, swimming.
Nice.
Spending time in nature on the beach. And I spend a lot of time on my fantasy football team. So there's also that as well.
Yeah, I guess interesting because, Olo, your brother was on What's Your Impact. So how come you guys are both interested in energy, brothers?
That's a very interesting question. I think we obviously grew up in the same, we grew up in the same house and, had the same context. So I think energy must have impacted us in very similar ways. I think he also influenced me to go into this field for sure.
Yeah, I guess, to what you just said, growing up, Brad, what was your experience with energy like?
Yeah, energy was very top of mind. I think that's a very unique thing to us.
Yeah.
To many of us growing up in Nigeria. So, you always have to deal with NEPA, transformers going bad for months at a time, growing up in the early 2000s, kerosene lamps and the fumes from that, because we both grew up asthmatic, and so having to deal with those fumes from the kerosene lamps, the generator sets, and how that affected our health. So just that interaction made it top of mind for me at least, to think about, does this have to be like this? Like, are there no better ways for us to have the reliable energy we need to, just power our day to day?
And I guess at that point, what did you think was the main reason why that energy access was not, very accessible to all? Energy was not very accessible to all.
I mean, I was young, so I wouldn't say I had a good sense of what the challenge or the solution was. I just knew that this was a challenge. Light not being stable, lights going out for months at a time because a transformer was blowing somewhere. Issues with bills, issues with the quality of the electricity, low current, etc. And so even from a young age, being, strong in math and science, it was easy for me to go into that route of, studying engineering in university and focusing on power and energy as a field.
Yeah, and I guess interestingly, you studied, and worked across the world. You studied in different countries. Was that part intentional? You going to,
Yeah, it was somewhat intentional, but also, luck and faith, sort of played a role there. So I think I did my undergrad in Turkey in the Middle Eastern Technical University. And that was in part because I got a scholarship. I got a scholarship to the secondary school here in Nigeria, Nigerian Turkish. And then I got a scholarship, similar like merit-based scholarship for my undergrad in Turkey. So that was an easy transition. This was one of the best universities in the region. And It was a top 50 university for electrical engineering in particular. So it was easy for me to make that transition. And then just, once it was time for me to do my master's, it felt like a natural way to evolve, to go to the US, to go to a top university in the US. A lot of my friends in the same, in my department and peers around me were doing similar. So yeah, I moved to the US, did my master's, got it from the University of Michigan, Ann Arbor, and then spent a few months working there in energy before moving back to Nigeria.
Yeah, so obviously you have a lot of theoretical background in energy, and I'm sure mostly from a technical point of view, right? Mm-hmm. So at what point did you transition from it being just technical to it being practical, financial, economical?
Yeah, I think it's always been a bit more of the non-technical side for me. So as I said, like growing up in Nigeria, growing up in Lagos, it's top of mind, and then you think surely there are better ways. And how do you, growing up and going into this field, it's always been how can I impact Nigeria's energy challenges? So even going through school, focusing on power systems, like specializing in power systems, power electronics, I've always had that mindset that, well, one, if it was pure technical, there were more interesting technical things that I could have done. At the time, there was, electronics and chip design. I have friends designing AI chips now.
Yeah, there were control
systems, embedded systems. So those, robotics, self-driving cars, all of that were subfields under electrical engineering, which were more interesting at the time. But again, for me, it's always been, okay, sure, I could do this. I'm able to do this. I can compete with the best in the world. But where can I make the most impact? Will I build a robot in Nigeria? Is that where the biggest challenge is? Maybe not. And so, yeah, obviously I'd focused on the engineering side, power systems, power electronics, but I tried my best to take these multidisciplinary courses from, Ross Business School, from different departments and faculties to just be to get a bit more broad knowledge. Because I think even from early on, I've known that it's not a technology thing. Meaning, energy technology has been solved for hundreds of years. Generators are a hundreds-year-old technology, distribution lines, etc. And so it's always been a bit more. It's always been a bit more of a systems challenge.
I guess it's interesting because I have a similar background, right? I guess more because I did my undergrad in Nigeria, right? But I have a degree in electrical and electronics engineering. And in school, I was more interested in the more technical part, right? In the control systems and all the other things, basically. And I guess renewable energy or sustainable energy only became a thing to me when I first started working, funny enough. And in uni, there was a renewable energy course, which I did not like, right? Because it was very theoretical, it was very technical, right? And then when I started working and I saw that, oh, this is actually solving an actual problem, right? People, like, a problem is that even big industries that work with generators, they're spending ridiculously on power, right? And they can reduce their costs, right? People that don't have access, this is a low-hanging fruit, right? So yeah, I guess for me, it was always a bit technical till I saw the actual usefulness of sustainable energy access, basically. And I guess I would like to know, was there a particular moment or was there a particular project that you worked on that made it more personal for you in your career path?
Yeah, I think again, yeah, we both had similar backgrounds. So I think for me though, again, as I said, it's something that there's that passion and sort of clarity of vision that I've had from much younger. And so it's always been a bit more about, this is impacting lives. Yeah. And perhaps even more like, how can I solve this challenge. Me personally, solve Nigeria's energy challenge. At the very least, contribute to it. In terms of projects that have shown me the human side and the impact side of things, a lot of progress, a lot of projects in my career I've seen that impact first time, right? Businesses saving on diesel, like the example you mentioned. But even in rural areas, people being able to store their products and not having to sell them for cheap and then making just a bit more money, or not losing fish. Fishermen fishing that they have to throw away the fish.
Yeah, you wrote an article on the fisherman, I remember.
Yeah, exactly.
That, yeah.
Just people that have to throw away the fish, they're able to store it because there's electrically powered refrigeration. But even more personally, I think recently, the government installed solar street lights very close to my house on Murtala Mohammed Way in Yawa. And all of a sudden, I'm able to go on a run at 5 a.m. because the place is lit, or run at 9 p.m. because the place is lit. That expands my day. I'm able to achieve more. But, taken away from me as a selfish human, you suddenly see, during my runs, you're seeing these small stores, these small shops coming up and selling, starting their business
earlier
at 5 a.m. Whereas in the past, they had to start at 7 a.m. Because they were waiting for the sun to rise, and also closing later. So my run at 9 p.m., these women are still out, they're still selling. And then you just realize it's such a low-hanging fruit as street lights.
Yeah.
There's so many budgets in Nigeria where street lights is padded into the budget. And you see the impact of, just street lights as a source of energy, the impact it's having on people's lives.
Mm-hmm. And I guess, I don't know if it was a new initiative, because they're actually also installing street lights on my street. And the other day, I'm like, I did it. I don't like to drive at night. But now I'm like, okay, I think I'm fine doing that because of, the lights. And like you said, there are people that I know they will close maybe 8 p.m., 7 p.m. And I see them 10 p.m., they're still selling, they're still working.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm like, why was this not done since? Why is it just being done right now? Yeah, so I guess basically you mentioned that you worked in the US in the energy industry. I would like to have an insight to how it was there, because I understand personally that, our energy issues are different from the issues that they're probably facing in the US, right? Mm-hmm. So actually coming from a Nigerian context, how was it working there? Even if there are different contexts, right? What insights did you say, or would you say you got from there that you were able to apply here locally?
Yeah. So I spent some time working at Tesla.
Yeah.
This was a couple of years ago. So this was before Elon became Elon. But,
yeah.
I think back then, what stood out to me was that vision to see a different future, and the bias to action to work towards that vision. I mean, to your point, these people, in the US, a lot of the world, the Western world, don't have issues with energy. Like energy access, energy reliability is not a challenge.
Yeah.
But in spite of that, you see Elon and the crew at Tesla thinking about what is a cleaner energy future, and how can we be a part of that? And, being a visionary, I think that's the main thing I would say, right? Like, I felt like the problem these people were solving paled in comparison to the problems I wanted to solve, right? And yet people, at Tesla, there were innovations and battery technologies and electric vehicles, and a vision that these technologies could get a lot better. Elon was making announcements at the time of batteries and technologies that even internally within the Tesla team, they didn't believe some of these things were possible. But, just having that, they had that bias to action, and that came from the top. And I think that's my major takeaway from my experience there was, I needed to believe that there is a better future, and I needed to take action and apply that hope and be actionable with that hope, and start to be a part of the solution.
Yeah, I guess that's very interesting, and I'm going to just take you back a bit, right? I like that you mentioned bias to action, right? Because and you also mentioned, you spoke about the impact of energy access to people, even in the rural areas, right? And we all understand that impact. We all understand that the issues, at least people that are in the field understand that the issue is access, right? But why would you say it has not scaled as much as it should have scaled, right? What people will say mini grids, and people are like, man, it's not profitable. I'm not doing a mini grid. Do you understand?
Yeah.
So are we focusing on the wrong things? Are we focusing on profits when the system has not been built well? Or what would you say are the issues why, or the reasons why energy access has not scaled as much as it should?
Yeah, I think I've been in this industry for a while now, and I think the big thing is it's a challenge that needs to be looked at holistically.
Yeah.
And I think it's a challenge that needs to look like holistically. And I also think change also takes time. And so what I tell people when I meet them is, look, I know it feels like we're moving very slowly. It feels like we should have seen more scale, but I do think that change takes time, and we just need to keep working. Holistically, so there are interdependencies, there are root cause issues, there are macroeconomic issues. All of these sort of play into that world of providing energy to those who are underserved. And I think as an industry, I think we're on the right path. I think we're closer to the exponential growth that we want to see. We just need to keep at it. But some of these broader issues around, jobs and, road network and, exporting, currency strengthening, inflation, interest rate, etc. Some of these things all of these things contribute significantly to the business model of energy access. And there needs to be a lot more improvement on some of these aspects, and that would help the energy access space reach the scale we need to see.
Yeah, and what would you say is the biggest gap between how you design a project to work, I guess on your computer or as a project that is being developed, and then how it actually plays out in real life?
I feel like you have better answers to that.
Yeah.
I think, as I said, I think one thing that we should not be is in too much of a hurry. So I think one key thing I see in the sector by financials, development partners, is everyone is in a hurry to scale, and for good reason, right? People need energy, and they need energy as soon as possible. But there's a process. These things have to go through a process. So you have to do the design, and you have to do the pilot, and you have to learn from these pilots, and then you have to take those learnings and then institutionalize those learnings. Make sure your construction
this is what you guys are doing, basically.
Yeah, it's a lot of the work we at RMI have been doing in the space. So make sure the teams you work with, imbibe those learnings, operationalize them, systemize them within the institute, your partners as well, the regulators, the utilities, help them understand, and then do the next couple of projects. Rather than doing just, raising money for a large portfolio of projects, and then when that portfolio doesn't work out, your investors are like, this energy access space, we can't lend to you at this rate, like your interest rate, that affects everybody else. No one is able to do projects profitably. So there's a cycle of some of these negative effects of trying to do things too quickly, and holding us back. So by trying to do things too quickly, we're not moving as
As
fast as we should.
Yeah. I guess a question that I would, want to ask, because I know, like you said, what you guys do is kind of, do pilots and institutionalize learning, right? Which is something that, like, if I'm trying to understand how you would work with maybe a disco, I'll try to refer to an RMI article or an RMI piece, right? But from the personal learning, right? Because from where I sit, right, the access problem, a low-hanging fruit is to start from the discos, right? That's where I sit, right? Because most times discos are connected. The grid is connected to an area, but it's either a supply issue or mostly an infrastructure issue, to be honest. Because like you said, transformers are bad, the poles, the line. So how? Two questions actually. So for a private institution, the problem is, like we all know, if I come, I invest in upgrading this infrastructure, I invest in generation assets. I'm at the bottom of the waterfall, right?
Yeah.
When the money comes in, you pay invest first, you pay, then I'm at the bottom. How much I get my money?
Yeah.
Right. On the other hand, if the money comes to me, right, the money is coming to me. I even saw, funny enough, 2 days ago, I saw there is I can't remember what it's called, but it's a waterfall for sub-franchising, right? And the waterfall still puts developers at the bottom. So, right, what is I control the cash, but I'm still at the bottom. So, two things. First thing I said is, the first thing I want to ask is, what has your experience been personally, working with discos, and how would you say it can be approached better, right, from a private? Because most times you have to mobilize private capital to ensure these things work well. So how would you think it will work best from a private point of view? Is it the perspective, we're looking at it from, or there might need to be changes from a policy point of view?
Yeah. Can I share an unpopular opinion?
Please share it.
No, I think discos need to lose their monopoly.
I mean, they already are. Funny enough, sorry. The other day, I think it was last week, right? There was another that said that, a disco, the monopoly or the rights to operate in an area can be taken from them if they underperform, right? So I guess it's already happening.
It's already happening. I think that's the path we need to take, and we need to take a bit quicker.
Yeah.
And that's also something that excites me about the space, right? And that's why I think we are closer to the exponential growth we need to see than not. And so to answer your question, yes, there are all these innovations that people like us in the space who have been trying to figure out. So design a new waterfall system, for example, or escrow your money somewhere and have sort of first draw on those waterfalls, because there's just so much loss and so much inefficiency in the market. And I think a lot of that inefficiency, it's not a simple solution, right? A lot of it is systemic. A lot of it is because they are just monopolies throughout the system. So this goes for one, transmission companies are monopoly. And historically, there are advantages to power being served, at scale with monopolies. But we as Nigerians, we haven't seen those advantages.
Yeah.
So I think we should just break everything and let the discos at least feel that threat of being able to lose their network. And that would force them to innovate. And that would force solutions that, you and I are well aware of. These decentralized solar solutions would force them to play a larger role in providing energy to Nigeria.
Yeah, and I guess the other question I asked was from a private company point of view.
Yeah, I think it's just, you have to be innovative. You also need very patient capital, because at the end of the day, to your point, this is an infrastructure business.
Yeah.
Infrastructure needs very patient, long-term capital. It needs public support. So public funding needs to go into infrastructure projects. but it also needs innovation, as you said, right? On the operation side, on the financing side, but also on the revenue assurance side, right?
Yeah.
So capital could be returned to investors, and then we can scale.
Yeah.
I think being innovative, but also being intentional about learning, about not making mistakes other people have made. Starting small, as I said, so start with pilots, institutionalize the learnings, and then build the next wave. I think that would be my recommendation. Be innovative. Look for the best, most patient capital you can. Don't look for VC money or private equity money.
Yeah.
I think the pension funds, public sector funds need to be a part of your project. Grants, co-funding from government, etc. Just to set you up for success.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you because, like you said, right, on the revenue assurance, if you're not even getting your financing that can make the projects work, you don't have a project. So, yeah, I think that's a learning I'll take. The fact that you need to be innovative, even on the financial side, right?
Yeah.
Mixing more patient capital with your source of fund, basically. I guess I would like to know what genuinely excites you, right, in the energy space currently. Yeah, currently, and what you feel like would be a real turning point in space.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of things excite me. So the prices and the quality of the technology technology is improving. Prices are coming down. So like solar battery.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, recently there's been a bit of a break in that trend, but I think over the last 3, 4, 5 years, prices have been coming down significantly.
Yeah.
I think AI also excites me. I think that knowledge gap and the ability to be innovative and sort of expand your thinking using AI to close some of that gaps for developers, but also for like regulators, for utilities. Knowledge is at your fingertip now. ChatGPT would just tell ChatGPT, or how else can I think about this? Or critique the way I'm thinking about this. And you're able to learn a lot faster. That excites me. But I think the major thing is, and I think we already touched on it, is just regulation. So I think the Electricity Act that empowers state governments to play a bigger role in this space. It means that some governments, obviously, not all, I wouldn't say all Nigerian state governments have the best capacity. I think for sure some governments need to take this challenge as personal. Historically they had to say, oh, it's a federal government issue, there's little they can do. But now they have the power to regulate, invest. And so it's time for them to do things like we mentioned, right? Like threaten the discourse or force the discourse to innovate, force the discourse to improve service quality. And I think that innovation that's it's no longer coming from Abuja, but it's going to come from subnationals. I think that excites me about the sector and the impact we can have in the next 3-5 years.
Yeah, no, I agree with you because, like I said, right, when I first started, renewable energy was not really a thing, right? But now you see acts supporting, saying that as a disco, you need a percentage of renewable energy in your energy mix. You see policies basically supporting the fact that you need to reduce your carbon emissions a particular percentage. So yeah, I think I'm also excited about the regulatory support that the energy space is getting currently. And I think something that maybe I should have asked earlier, right? I would like to know your career path, right? What would you say there are things that you took from different places you work, different people you encountered that have brought you here?
Yeah, I think I'll say overarchingly, I've been lucky to work with dreamers and believers, right? And people who embody that applied hope principle. So I mentioned Tesla, right? Basically started the electric vehicle industry and was a big part in the scale of like solar and battery for households in the US. Again, solving a problem that most people don't think is even a problem at the time, right? So that vision to imagine a better future. I worked for a financier in Nigeria who also was very passionate about how to bring in, concessional capital into the space and improve the lives of people across the country. And then you and I crossed paths temporarily when we worked for a small developer who also had big dreams, felt that there is a space for, even from a small, some financing, not a big old company, but you had a space to play in the C&I sector, in the rural mini-grid sector, being passionate about being one of the first movers in the industry. And I think my current place of work, it just, I think it helps. We look at things from a systems change perspective.
Yep.
And I think I needed to do that. I needed to take a step back from developing projects and think, okay, where are the structural barriers and how can I clear some of those blockers so that in the future things are easier for me when I do go back to building projects in the sector.
Yeah.
Also yourselves.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. I guess for a young person in Nigeria today, or maybe in Africa, that wants to build a career in clean energy, sustainable energy, what would you say they should focus on, or what would you say they should focus on?
I think it's an exciting space to be, as I said. I think we are on the precipice of exponential growth. And I think for young people, you want to gain as much breadth as you can before the need for specialization comes in. I think the sector is still, somewhat, again, we're not seeing that exponential growth that necessarily forces people to specialize early on. And I feel like people should take advantage of that. So have different experiences, visit rural communities to see the impact of the lack of energy in their lives, work on the engineering side of things, but also, look at the business side of things, the financial side of things, take courses on regulation, take courses on AI and energy and the intersection. I think knowledge, that breadth of knowledge is important to help you understand that the breadth of the challenge, the holistic view that you need to impact the challenge, as best as you can.
I guess that's a good advice for me personally, because someone else might say, you need to specialize in something before you broaden your knowledge. But me personally, I'm of the opinion that you need breadth, right? You need to understand how every single part fits in to create the ecosystem before, if you decide to, you say, I want to specialize in this, I want to be more technical, I want to be on the financial side, I want to be on the regulatory side. Yes, I guess that was, good validation for me as well. I think we have come to the end of this amazing conversation, and I think one thing I took from you was, like I said earlier, right, apart from the infrastructure, there are people that are behind the thinking, the building, right, behind understanding the systems issues that would drive changes, actually, because no matter how good your design is, no matter how good even your funding is, right, if you don't tackle the system problems, you don't really have a project that works. And I think understanding it from that point helps you, and also institutionalizing the knowledge, like what you guys are doing, is something that we need, and something that we need more of, really, because people still don't understand. Funny enough, I was trying to explain a grid-tied system to someone the other day. The person was like, "Oh, so in CNI, solar cannot just work for only the light." So people's idea of solar in CNI is, you should just power the lights and the fan, but the main equipment you can't really. And I was trying to explain that no, you synchronize it like having two generators, right? It works when there's sun out. And just saying that there needs to be more, structured knowledge put out there on how the energy systems work together. To create a better and more sustainable future, basically. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. And I think, platforms like yours, I think it's critical for that knowledge and that awareness piece. And very excited to speak to you today.
Thank you. Thank you all so much for watching or listening to this episode. And we're going to have more conversation on energy and infrastructure and people, financing, every bit basically, and how they come together to drive us to a more sustainable future. Don't forget to follow us on our social media pages on every platform. Our handle is What's Your Impact? What's WATTS for power? And also subscribe to this YouTube channel and like this video for it to gain a wider audience. Thank you. See you next time. Bye.